So after years and years of playoff appearances and second round exits, the grit and grind era for the Memphis Grizzlies led by Marc Gasol and Mike Conley had officially ended back in 2018. In the 2018 season, the Memphis Grizzlies, after making the playoffs the year prior, had finished with a record of 22-60, which was the second worst record in basketball during that year. And that meant that they had hopes of maybe drafting one of the top three guys in that class in DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, or Luka Doncic. Unfortunately for them, they had dropped out of the top three due to the lottery and fell to fourth, but that still meant that they could draft a good player, and that's what they did, selecting Michigan State standout Jaren Jackson Jr., and it would basically be what was the start of a new era in Memphis. Leading them into the 2019 season with low expectations, let's just say it really didn't get much better. During that year, they had decided to trade franchise big Marc Gasol to the Toronto Raptors for their big Jonas Valanciunas in a trade that would make it official and put the stamp that the Grizzlies were preparing for big major rebuilding moves in the upcoming offseason. During the 2019 season, the Grizzlies were bad, but not a bad enough team to have top lottery odds for the prized possession Zion Williamson at the time, who was seen by almost everyone as the next big thing in basketball heading into next season. They finished with a 33-49 record, only bad enough for 12th in the conference. But it was clear that this offseason coming up was going to be the start of something new in Memphis, and that the grit and grind era was well behind them. But little did they know that on May 14th, 2019, the start of this new era was going to go into a major kickstart as the ping pong balls dropped and the Memphis Grizzlies, who had only the 9th best odds at the number 1 pick, had jumped all the way up into the 2nd overall slot in the draft, which did mean that they couldn't pick Zion, but it also meant that they had a chance to draft another big-time star in the draft, Murray State point guard Ja Morant, who had shocked everyone and came out of nowhere that collegiate season to make himself a household name and a lock for a top 3 selection in the draft. And that's exactly what happened in the following month as the Grizzlies found a replacement in the new franchise point guard to replace Mike Conley, who had been with that franchise ever since he was drafted back in 2008. Going into the 2019-2020 season, the Memphis Grizzlies were finally going to be a young team led by their top picks in Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson and had a foundation for the future. But now it was time to see how the team would look on the court in year one of the Ja Morant era in Memphis. And needless to say, it went great, as the Grizzlies would be one of the most surprising teams in the league that year, and before the league shut down, had a record of 32-33 and were 8th place in a tough Western Conference that season. The duo of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson would be a terrific young duo that year, as Ja Morant led the team in scoring and assists, averaging nearly 18 and 8, and he would also take home the Rookie of the Year award, the first Grizzly pair to ever do so in franchise history. Meanwhile, the 2018 lottery pick Jaren Jackson would also average 17 and 5 on efficient shooting, while also being one of the league's best shot blockers at the young age of 20 years old. But, like I said before, the league had got shut down for a few months, and they had finally returned in July, played in a bubble, but the bubble had kind of killed their momentum, as they went on to play 8 games in the bubble and lost 6 out of the 8, which dropped them to 9th in the Western Conference behind the Blazers, and would have to play them in the newly implemented play-in game. And unfortunately for the young Grizzlies, they would lose to the Blazers and end up missing the playoffs despite having what was a successful season in their eyes. But they did have a lot to look forward to going into next year, so there was nothing really that they could hang their head down on because there was a lot of positives. While the Grizzlies didn't do much in the offseason and free agent acquisitions, they did exceptionally well in the 2020 draft, selecting 2 players that have proven to be steals in their own right, selecting TCU guard Desmond Bane, who was the best shooter in the draft with the 30th overall pick in the first round, and currently is one of the better young players in the NBA today. They also selected Xavier Tillman, a big out of Michigan State, who's also played well and played key minutes for the Grizzlies so far in his early part of his career. The Grizzlies in the 2020-2021 season had some expectations to build off of the surprising 2020 year, and did pretty well, as Ja Morant improved his numbers to 19 points per game and 7 assists. Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson had solid seasons in their own right, but the biggest surprise was the play of their draft pick Desmond Bane, who had averaged 9 points per game, but if you watched him play, you could tell he had some serious potential if he ever got those starter caliber minutes, and could be one of the league's best shooters one day if he ever gotten a big chance. And for these Grizzlies, things improved. They did finish 9th, but things had improved, and they had another chance to play for a playoff spot playing in this play-in tournament. And this time, they had a matchup against the San Antonio Spurs to try to go into the next round of the play-in, in which they won, and that meant that they had a matchup against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors for the 8th seed, in what would be a matchup against the Utah Jazz if they won this game. And this, in my opinion, was the start of Ja Morant's rise to superstardom, as in this game against the Warriors had scored 35 points and led the Grizzlies to their first playoff appearance since 2017. And now the Grizzlies would have that first round dance versus the Jazz. And you know what? They did pretty well. They fought hard, they stole 2 wins in that series, and Ja Morant proved that he was made for the big stage, averaging 38 and 5 and even scoring a playoff career high 47 points in Game 2 of that series. Even though the series was an L on the record books, it was still a major step in the right direction heading into the 2021-2022 season. That offseason, the Grizzlies decided to make some moves. The most notable one being trading their big Jonas Valanciunas for Steven Adams. Valanciunas played well for the Grizzlies, but Steven Adams would bring that enforcer type of mentality, that type of role to this team, and that's exactly what they wanted, and that's what they got. They also selected Stanford wing Zaire Williams in the top 10 in the 2021 draft, courtesy of a New Orleans Pelicans pick from a 2019 trade. So heading into this season's training camp, expectations were even higher. After seeing what Ja Morant could do on that big stage, it was now time to see if the Grizzlies could finally crack into that top 6 in the Western Conference. And that leads into this season, because Ja Morant had himself an MVP caliber season, winning Most Improved Player, averaging 27, 7, and 6 on super efficient numbers, shooting 49%, having himself highlight after highlight, almost every game being a human highlight reel. And his performance, along with the play of second-year man Desmond Bane, who was inserted into the starting 5 this season, averaging 17 points per game, an 8-point increase from his rookie season point per game average, helped lead the Grizzlies to their best season in franchise history, winning 56 games and finishing with the second best record in the Western Conference and in the NBA, only behind the 64-win Phoenix Suns. Going into this postseason, they had a matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves, in which they survived multiple scares in that series, but they did win in 6 games, their best win coming in Game 3 when they overcame what was at one point a 26-point lead to win on the road, which now leads us to the current state of this Memphis Grizzlies team. As yeah, they are down 2-1 in their second round series versus the Warriors, and Ja Morant is out for the next game, most likely. But it just goes to show that this team is young, and no matter what happens in this series, the Memphis Grizzlies are here to stay and are going to be a major, major problem for years and years to come, as long as Ja Morant is leading this team every single season. Because you know what? This is something that Mike Conley and Marc Gasol could never do. They never had that type of talent to lead this team that far, but I see it in Ja Morant and in this team. I think they can do some major damage, and they're just getting started. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if I should do more of these videos. I kind of like doing them. You should let me know though in the comments section down below. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Link will be down in the description. This has been the Checkup, where we talk hoops and hoops only. I'll see y'all next video. Peace.